Welcome to the GSMC Business News Podcast, the show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. If you're looking for a podcast to keep you informed and ahead of the game in business, the GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Business Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Moriah, and today we'll be discussing remote living. I am currently loving my work from home life. I'm an entrepreneur and by night, and by day I do work a 9 to 5, and it is definitely a great experience, I would say, for me. I love working from home. I worked from home for another employer previously, way before the pandemic got started. And I would say in my career path, I wasn't mature enough to handle working from home. I was new to corporate living, and it just was too much time. I felt like I had too much time and I was unproductive. However, now that I've been in corporate for a few years, I can definitely say that working remote, it really just makes sense. A lot of the things that you have to do, during your daily task, it's all tied to the computer. We use the internet, all different type of computer software and applications. And when I previously worked remote, I didn't have a home office, so I was kind of shuffling papers in my living room. Corporate life has been good to me, so now I was able to move, have a home office. So I was mainly handling some entrepreneur things in the office, and then the pandemic hit. And so it just made sense to move into my office, and I feel much better, less stressed. I am not the best in traffic. Anyone who gets in my car can tell you I have a slight case of road rage. I'm working on it. So the commute back and forth, it was really killing me. It was standstill traffic every day. It was almost an hour and a half to get home. So I'm definitely not missing that commute. So we're going to just touch on that today. I'm going to give you some statistics on it. Got to give the statistics on that. We'll talk about how we're saving some money, the impact on the economy, and then some hometown heroes. Now, my hometown heroes today are some big corporations, but still doing the due diligence of what we need during this remote living. And I just want to break you off with some statistics. Just talking about the work from home environment. So right now, as of 2021, about 1 in 4 Americans are working remotely. Now that is obviously an increase from before. I remember I can name about, on my hand, I can count about 4 of my friends, and I would say that sounds about right. It's me. And then the other 3 work from home. So I'm sure on a larger scale, those stats make even more sense. And some experts are projecting that by 2025, there's going to be an 87% increase from pre-pandemic levels, and that about 36.2 million Americans will be working remotely. Now, we are in this internet and virtual environment. The world that we live in, everything is heavily dealt and handled online. E-commerce is at an all-time high. So many applications that help you do very minimal things that, normally you would have to go into the store to handle. A lot of things can be done from home. I remember at one point, you couldn't just download an app and order your food and it would come and you can track your food. I was joking about it on Twitter the other day, about how I almost forgot how it was to order food through the actual restaurant. I called the restaurant, ordered some takeout, just got back from a trip, and I just didn't feel like cooking, and I ordered the food, And I'm like, well, where's the food? It's taking a long time. I go to my phone. I'm looking through all of my food apps, and I'm like, well, where's my order at? I had to remember that I ordered through the restaurant, so I had to just wait for the carrier to come. Technology has just changed the way we've done everything. So it only makes sense that we're now working from home. I do believe more employers are now no longer hesitant. I believe before, when the pandemic first got started, a lot of employers were kind of pushing against the work from home environment, and they were just trying to figure out a way to socially distance within the office, the physical office, and just see how that works. I was one of the employees who was on the last wave of those that was able to work from home. And I just remember looking around like, this is not going to last long, with the CDC telling us different things that are happening and the rates of COVID infections. And then I started to have people very close to me catch COVID, and then a few individuals passed away from COVID. I knew eventually we were going to have to work from home and we weren't going to be able to stay in the office. Part of me being a young corporate worker, I couldn't wait to go home. I'm just going to be honest. I was just like, man, I hope they send me home. I was happy to see that other employees were doing well with working remotely. I think in the beginning it was hard to work from home because we're so used to being in the office, having lunch with your coworkers and building that camaraderie and that networking and that mentorship. But I'm all for social media and I'm all for the virtual environment. So I knew that there was a way we could still get it done, but just be remote. And I think, with the increase in technology, it only made sense that it was going to happen. I think it was always going to happen eventually, but I do believe that the pandemic definitely throttled us forward very much in a fast and quick way that I don't think anybody was really ready for, right? So, again, by 2025, experts are expecting that 36.2 million Americans will be working remotely. And it's just going to be that COVID-19, the long-lasting impacts of it, how hiring managers are going to think about their organizations, how new businesses are going to begin to sprout up, and they might not have a work at location option. You might have to work from home. I do think a lot of businesses can adapt quickly because of the decrease in the individuals in the office. That decreases the rent that they may have to pay. A lot of businesses lease their locations. Not many businesses buy their office buildings. They renew their lease or they might move to a new building. I've been in a few situations like that. So I do believe a lot of businesses are realizing how much money they're saving by sending individuals home. So while the commercial locations, they're seeing a decrease in the demand for them, the living space demand is definitely increasing. I remember I had to move during the middle of the pandemic, and finding a place to stay was pretty difficult. Me and my wife, we had a little difficulty looking for a location that was within budget. I'm all about the budget. I hate going over budget. So we tried to find somewhere that was within budget, that gave us what we want, that, gave me that home office. Because remember, again, I was kind of in my living room or playing, my basement, and I didn't really have a location for me to set up and really work. So all of that got factored in. So I think businesses are starting to see that it's just going to affect a lot of different environments. The woman who helped me find my new home, everything was virtual. So she wasn't able to, her employer, they didn't allow them to show us the property. It was a virtual tour. So it was just very different. I was used to being able to go to the location and the realtor or the agent is there and they help walk you through it. But her employer didn't allow that because of the CDC and because of government regulation. Everything was done virtually. So even on that side of it, in the real estate sector, they're seeing that virtual reality is becoming the new norm. And a lot of the younger people who are starting to, take these corporate jobs and take these other, these other employment opportunities are starting to see that, well, maybe we don't need to work from home. Maybe we can, maybe that we can work from home and that we don't actually have to be on location. So it's just I do think it's going to be a long lasting effect, and I personally like it. I do. I know I mentioned that already, but I really think this is cool. It's nothing like being able to have, I saw a joke on social media where, they have their button down shirt on up top, and then on the bottom they had, some pajama pants and some cozy socks. It's just when you're comfortable, in my office, I have my music playing. You're just able to really zero in on your work. And I'm surprised at how much work I'm actually getting done now that I'm not out of my element. It feels pretty good. So I do think that this is going to be a long lasting effect. There was a survey by Upwork where 1,000 small business owners, there was a survey conducted between October 21st and November 7th of 2020. And that was about 6 or 7 months after the COVID-19 pandemic forced everyone to switch to remote work. And according to that survey, 41.8% of Americans are still working remotely. They do believe there's going to be a gradual return back to the office locations. So again, like I was stating, I wouldn't mind working from home a few days a week, and then, we're in office a few days just to keep that camaraderie going. It is one of the downsides of working from home is that you're not able to physically see your coworkers. Now, I'm more of a quiet, worker bee. I kind of just like to get in, get my work done, but not being able to see your friends at work, and not being able to just see people, it can be an isolated type of thing. Now, where I'm married and I have pets, some of my coworkers don't have anyone, and they work, they live by themselves. So some people were not too happy about it. Some people still aren't too happy about it. And I like my job. I think they're being very flexible with all their employees. They give everyone an option. Obviously there's a cap on how many employees can work in the office, but they are allowing gradually, quarter by quarter, a few employees at a time to come back in. There's rotating days. So some employees are working from home on maybe the beginning of the week, and then towards the end of the week, they're back in the office. And that's how I was in the very beginning. So the very beginning of the pandemic, I was still in the office, essential employee. I had to carry around the work paper just in case I was stopped. And then I went working half and half. So half of the week I was in the office, half of the week I was home. And then eventually they just sent me home. And I think that was a great idea. So shout out to my job. I love it. So their employers are seeing, a mix of their employees. Everyone is different. Everyone works different. Some people can't work in isolation. Again, I'm one of those workers who can. I do love the environment of having some great coworkers, and you can all chill for lunch, and you can run to your coworker's desk really quick and share a funny joke on your way to get coffee or something like that. I can say that is something that I do miss. So I wouldn't mind, going back and forth between the two. But I do think remote work is going to take over. So, there's a reduction of non-essential meetings. Now, that's one thing I don't miss is all the meetings. Oh, my goodness. And I think working remote has shown us that maybe we don't need a meeting for everything. Maybe an email does work best in certain situations. So the schedule flexibility increases. I've always had a flexible schedule at my job. We're allowed to work, a certain set of hours and come in at a certain time. And, there's a cap on that. So I do see other employers are, implementing that flex scheduling. There's no commute, which I absolutely love. Again, I have slight road rage, and at that hour and a half commute was really taking a mental toll. So I do know a lot of other workers who are saying the same thing. Like, man, I'm so glad I don't have to commute. I get to stay home. I knew a new mother at the time. She was a new mother right at the beginning of the pandemic, and she was so ecstatic that she was able to work from home. Number one was safety, having a newborn, and then number two, she was just happy that she could be home and, she just gave birth, so I think it came at a perfect time for her. So a lot of people are liking a lot of the benefits. And again, like I said, you might want to run to your coworker's desk and crack a joke real quick on your way to get some water or on your way to lunch. Those distractions aren't there when you're home. So I do believe there's an increase in productivity. I know the stats are saying there is, but me personally being in it, I can definitely say that the productivity has gone up. And remote work it's just getting easier. The study says 68% of hiring managers are saying that it's going much more smooth than it was in the beginning of the pandemic. In the beginning, a lot of people were still getting used to it. I worked from home previously, so I was used to the environment. I was able to kind of tell my upper management, hey, just to give suggestions and my experiences, this is how it was when I was working from home. Maybe we can try and implement that. A lot of things did get implemented, so I felt like my voice was heard. So I think, management and employers are seeing that, well, it's not so bad. I feel like a lot of times they didn't want to lose that in-office vibe. But now they're seeing, with the increase in certain mobile applications like Zoom, for example, there's other things like Cisco. I know a lot of jobs use Cisco for their web meetings and things like that. So there are ways to still keep that camaraderie going. And again, those meetings, a lot of people are happy about the meetings going down. I do believe we're going to see a trend in freelancing. So a lot of like contracting work will go on instead of having to hire certain employees full time. I do believe we're going to start seeing some freelance, quick contract gigs going on. So shout outs to the freelancers. I think this is going to be your time to shine. So those are just, just some basic little stats, a few little stories in there about working from home, that environment. I do think it's cool. There's always pluses and minuses to everything in life, right? So I do think there's more advantages and more benefits to working from home than there are disadvantages, right? All right, so we're going to just take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get to my favorite part, the budget and how we're saving money. And then after that, we'll talk about the impact on the economy, and then we're going to talk about some corporations who I think are just killing the work from home environment right now, all right? So stay locked in. We'll be back.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
And we're back, and again today we're talking about remote living, and we just briefly touched on some stats, the rise in remote work and how experts expect by 2025 close to 36 million people that are in the workforce will be working from home. So right now we're just going to get into some statistics, some good tips and some good information about how we're saving money during this time. I know I'm saving money. Again, I love a good budget. I love saving money. So I'm always looking on ways to cut my expenses and keep them as close to zero, right? So although I do love the fact that, for example, in the beginning of the pandemic, I was still one of the employees who had to go into the office. I was considered essential. My job, they would buy us lunch, and they always give us free coffee and water and, tea and all that stuff. But the lunch, I loved free lunch. That was a great part of the pandemic for me. They always did a survey. It was maybe 10 of us still in the office. Mind you, I worked for a pretty large company, and there was about 10 of us in my department. And, they would just do a survey, and we would all pick, and whatever we decided to eat that day is what we would get. And, obviously we're gonna we're gonna push that as much as we can. So that was cool. And although we missed that, I do think that working from home is saving a lot of people some money. I know it's saving me money, so it has to be saving you money. You probably just haven't really looked at your budget. And you probably just haven't really seen how much money you're saving, right? So the first thing that for sure, that people are cutting down on is the cost of commuting. So the average commuter spends between $2,000 and $5,000 per year on transportation alone. Now, whether it be, public transportation, or by car, you're definitely saving on cost. I know for my city in Philly, there is, the septic key card, and a lot of city workers, they just go park the car up, pay for parking, and then take the train either downtown, or they take it, to the suburbs of Philadelphia to work in certain office plazas out there. So, a lot of those individuals are saving money. I know me as a commuter, I didn't have the option of driving to a train location and then going to my job. My job was in a place where you do kind of have to have, there's public transportation out there, but it's just much, much easier to drive. So I know I'm definitely saving money on specifically gas. The study went back to, I want to say 2018, and they were just looking at, you got to look at the numbers before the pandemic, because a lot of jobs begin to see the impact towards the last quarter of 2019. So in 2018, the average household spent about $2,100 on gas alone. And the previous year, that was only around $1,900. So in 2018, we saw an increase. I know in 2019, I had to get a different car, and I was able to use regular gas. We call it the 87. I was able to use that. My other car was premium gas. So although I saw a decrease in the amount of money I spent on gas, traveling further, my job was much further than the other job was. So I was definitely spending, I want to say, close to that $2,100. I want to say mine was less than that, though. It was around that, like the 2,000 mark. I would have to really dig back and go through my budget, but I think I was spending just about $2,000 on gas to commute back and forth to work. And the average commuter is about 5 to 13 miles away from their job. Some people commute almost 50 miles back and forth. It really depends on where you work. I want to say I was in between the 13 and the 50 miles. So I was somewhere in like the 20 mile range, I want to say. Love my job, just it's a long commute. And when there's no traffic, which was beginning to happen when I was an essential employee, I was getting there much faster than I was while there was all the cars and all the trucks on the road. So working remote has definitely been good. You had to fill up once a week. That was me. I was filling up every week. And then it became every other week once I was able to do half of my time in office and half my time home. And now I want to say I fill up on average about 1.5 times a month. Because I'm not really going anywhere. I'm staying in the city. It's not, everything has been closed for so long, so it wasn't much to do besides go to the grocery store. A lot of things I was able to get delivered through things like Amazon, and, FedEx. So I wasn't really spending too much money on gas and things like that once I was able to work full remote from home. So I'm definitely saving some money on gas. I want to say a few $100s for 2020. I want to say I've saved on gas simply because I'm working from home. So working from home definitely has its benefits. I don't have to go get my oil changed as much. So again, I like to keep my budget as close to zero as possible. I hate spending money. I do like to go on trips. I do like good takeout. Like I like to go to good restaurants. I think that's just my treat for myself because I really don't spend on much. So me being who I am, I learned how to do everything for my car that I possibly can. Now, if it's something with the engine, I'm not even going to play with it. But something simple like an oil change or something like of that nature. I can do an oil change. But anything like too major, I'm not messing with it. So car maintenance, people spend between, I want to say, $6,000 to $10,000 a year on car maintenance alone. I learned how to do my oil change because, again, I had to get a new car. So I figured out how to do the oil change on that. So during that time, the mechanic that I would go to, they had reduced hours. So I wasn't really able to take the car to get the oil changes when I needed to. So I learned how to do it myself. The working remote has definitely taught me to be, like, the pandemic in general has just taught me to be much, much more sufficient when it comes to the things that you really don't think you can do yourself. Well, it's easier to just let someone else do something to pay them to get it done. And the pandemic showed me a lot of things you can do yourself. So now I do, now that the mechanic, he's back operating the way he used to, I just take the car and let him handle it. But at the time, I cut that down altogether because my work schedule and when he was open was always conflicting. So I learned how to do that myself. And I realized I don't have to do it as much. Normally, every 5,000 miles at the most, you want to go get your oil changed. Now, I can't say that I've hit 5,000 miles. I would have already hit it by now. Commuting to where I was going to. There, I'm about 20 miles away from my job. That back and forth every day, twice a day, 5 times a week. It was just, I was hitting that 5,000 mark much, much quicker than I am now. So where I might have to get an oil change in close to 3 months, now I'm still not close to that. I want to say I got an oil change around November. I want to say it was probably November. And we're in March now, so I'm happy. I'm very happy that I'm saving money on that. My car insurance definitely went down. They saw, that I wasn't driving as much. And then again, I had to move. So the location I moved to, that also played a factor into my car insurance dropping. My car insurance, the company that issues my insurance, they gave relief during 2020 towards the middle of the pandemic. So I was able to see a small little refund on my policy. So that was pretty cool. And again, public transportation, if you're working from home, you don't have to park your car up, or you don't have to buy so much. You don't have to load your transportation card up so much. You're able to just really, really save money on transportation. So I'm loving that about the working from home. And then clothes. So I like to shop for clothes, but I like to do it online. I'm not one of those workers who can just wear the same pants every day and wear the same shirt every day. I admire the ones who can do it. They'll buy 5 of the same color shirts, 5 of the same color jeans, 2 pair of shoes, and they are content with the bare minimum. I like to put a little pizzazz in my outfit. So, working in the office, I definitely wanted to look presentable. My job is a lax corporate dress code. So we're able to wear, jeans and sneakers and that things of that nature. Definitely want to look presentable though. So with that being said, now that I'm working from home, again, if you were listening earlier, I saw something on social media, have a good, nice shirt on, fix my hair up. And on the bottom, I'm probably in ball shorts or sweatpants and some slippers or something like that. My dog is probably right there next to me. It's just so much easier. You really don't have, and that's only for meeting days. Because if it's not a meeting, I'm probably in my robe. And I think a lot of us are. Working from home has just been such a cozy, comfortable thing. And we're still getting work done. So definitely saving money on car maintenance and gas. Definitely saving money on clothes. You don't need a closet full of suits and shoes and high heels and some people the fancy watches and all that good stuff, haircuts, and you might be able to skip a haircut now and then. Now that we're working from home, you don't have to really keep up with that. So even that's saving you some money on the hair maintenance as well. And eating out, I know for lunch, I was definitely the one to bring my lunch to work because of where I work. I just didn't like the food options that were out there. But some days I would, take a ride. Just had to get out the office for a minute. An assignment might have been, kicking my butt, and I just need to go for a ride during my lunch break. So I love there's a burrito place around the corner from my job, and I will go there sometimes on my lunch break, and I was realizing how much money I was spending. Now I worked way too early to even hit any of the breakfast stores, so I always missed the breakfast store. So I definitely had to bring my own, my own breakfast into work. But sometimes for lunch, I would definitely splurge a little bit. And then that commute was killing me. So on the way home, I might just pick up dinner. I don't feel like cooking tonight. But now that I'm home, I don't even want takeout food because I've been cooking everything in the house, and I've realized how much money I'm saving. The money that I would probably normally spend on takeout food, I still would calculate it and then just put it back into my savings. A few times I put it into buying a few shares of some penny stocks. So definitely saving money on eating out. I hope you're saving money on eating out as well. I know sometimes you might get tired of cooking because cooking can be strenuous, especially if you don't love to do it. So I like to say, treat yourself, but you should be saving some money right now simply off the fact that you're working from home. All right. And then something else that a lot of people haven't considered is the tax break. So if you're like a self-employed worker, you're eligible for some different tax breaks. Now that you're working remotely, you should be able to do your home office deduction. There should be a few pass-through deductions. Now, I'm not the best with taxes. I always look to the tax professionals. That's why we have them. So I would definitely reach out to your CPA, whoever does your taxes for you, just to see what type of deductions you can have now that you are working from home. There should be some benefits for you. And then now you're able to really see how much money you're actually making. So I know when you're working, in the office, you do have to calculate gas and your commute time. And then you're ordering takeout, and you might, for lunch, and you might be buying something for breakfast. And then you're buying office clothes, paying for gas, all that stuff. But now that you're working from home, you should really be able to just sit, look at your income, and really factor in everything. So factor in your electric bill. I know I have seen a slight increase in my electric bill, which is fine. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to pay. I'll pay for the electric if I can cut down on the commute. So that's a sacrifice I'm willing to take. So you should just be able to really sit and really see a change in your budget. You should be able to allot funds to more savings and more investments. Now that you don't have to spend it as much on food and clothes and car maintenance. I think car maintenance is the biggest cost that many workers have, or transportation in general. So now that we're working from home, we definitely should be seeing some increase in our funds. We should be able to, I know a few people that I spoke with, they saw a great increase. They're able to see that, they're saving money. One guy I know, he was able to invest in the stock market now. He never had the funds to do so before, but now that he works from home, he can. So there's definitely, there's a lot of advantages to working from home. A lot of businesses are seeing the advantages. A lot of, employees are seeing it. So the employees and the employers are definitely seeing advantages to working from home. Okay. So we're just going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the impact of working from home and on the environment, on the economy, and how the economy is definitely shifting. There's a shift, business, there's always a pivot. And there's definitely a pivot in the work from home landscape, just the workforce period. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand.
again. Thanks for tuning in. It's your girl Moriah, and today we're talking about remote living, working from home, and how I am absolutely loving it. I hope you're loving your working from home experience. If you are not, I hope your employer has given you the option to commute back and forth to the office. I know my employer has. Majority of the employees that I work with are younger, so we definitely love working from home. I've noticed some older employees, they love working from home as well. I do know some want to do both. So they don't mind working from home, but working from home all the time is just not beneficial for certain individuals. I know some, it depends on who you are. That's just my experience. So I would charge you to look around your work environment, to look around your job to see, just to have your own stats and, kind of pay attention to what's going on. I do think we're going to have a lot of long-lasting effects of working from home, partly thanks to COVID-19. I'm not a fan of COVID-19, obviously. I do appreciate how it has pushed us into the work-from-home environment. I know my job was getting ready to start the pilot before we even knew what COVID-19 was. And then once COVID-19 hit, we were kind of already getting our ducks in a row. So when it hit, there was just a slight, I want to say across the board at every employer, there was just a slight confusion on how to do it effectively. Not everyone had the opportunity to work from home. A lot of people couldn't afford to work from home. A lot of people live by themselves and did not want to work from home. A lot of people didn't have good internet access at home. So you're definitely seeing a difference in who can and who can't work from home, who actually wants to and who doesn't want to. And also it goes even deeper, which we're getting ready to get into now, because it impacts the economy in different ways, right? So the first obvious impact of working from home on the economy is the telecommuting. It just eliminates, like we previously touched on, the price of commuting. People are saving money on travels. They're saving money on gas. They're saving money on maintenance. A lot of employers, they offer their ride share. So you would drive or get dropped off or take the bus or the train to a certain location. And the job would pay a contractor or a driving service to come get certain employees to take them to the new location. And they're obviously seeing a decrease in demand for that service, because if everyone's working from home, then no one needs to go get picked up from those locations, right? And if they do still offer it, I know an older woman that I know, her job still offers that option. However, they don't do it as much, so maybe twice a week they offer that. So people begin to schedule their work from home schedule around the times that they can take that transportation to the office. So they might work from home the beginning of the week, and then towards the end of the week, they'll commute to the office, or vice versa, depending on when that transportation service is available. So we're definitely seeing a decrease in, traffic. There's definitely less traffic going on. Again, like I've been stating throughout the episode, I can't stand traffic. I don't understand it. We could just be driving straight and say there's no accident and there's still traffic. I just can't take it. So I'm waiting for the day we get flying cars. That's why I'm all for automation. One day, hopefully in my lifetime, I'll see the flying car. I'm going to be first in line to get one, right? Maybe Tesla will create that for us, right? Well, anyway, so we're definitely seeing the decrease in, the traffic. We're seeing a decrease in greenhouse emission. We're seeing a decrease in needing to buy gas and needing to do a bunch of car maintenance. Less people in the stores, which makes for a better shopping experience. I've also noticed when I went on a trip recently, me and a friend were talking while we were on the trip, and we noticed how the employees were much, much more friendly. And not to say that they were ever mean, But if you work in that industry, in the hospitality industry, it can be very stressful. Everyone is demanding 5-star service, and maybe that employee is just having a bad day. And when you're in a packed resort or a packed hotel or wherever you work, or a packed restaurant, the stress level is very, very high. And with remote working, I do see an increase in customer service. I just think workers are just a little bit more happy and just better able to handle the workload. So I do think that, businesses are seeing the benefits. Now, while they are seeing the benefits of that, one thing I can say is that interactions in the workplace, that's going to be affected because normally, it's research and studies done that show knowledge spillover happens face to face more so than online. So, when you're online, I'm sure you, the listeners, have been on different social media sites and someone throws out a random fact and a lot of people just take it at face value, and then that gets spread, and then something that may have been slightly true but needs more contextual value to go with it for people to really understand the concepts gets pushed to the side because it's just really easy to just take that snippet and run with it. So I do believe that, employers are trying to mitigate it. They don't want other employees to not really be able to mentor each other and really be able to grow and share knowledge, because I can say, now while I'm all for working from home, one of the side effects of working from home, which is not a great side effect, is that it's easy to push things off. So when I say that, I mean, if there's a meeting and everyone's assigned a task, it's easy to just say, okay, you close out your meeting, you get to work. You might have questions, you might shoot an IM, you might shoot an email. You wait for the response. It might not come right away, so you just move on to another task. Or you might just try to fix it as much as you can, and then, it kind of gets lost in the wayside. Now, while it doesn't happen often at my job, I do know that there is room for error in everything we do in life. Wherever there is humans, there is room for error, in my opinion. So I do know employers don't want that to happen. They want to make sure that everyone is able, when you're in the office and I'm having a question on the report I'm doing, previously I could just reach over my cubicle. Hey, can you help me with this real quick? Get it done right then and there. Now you have to wait, and that can slow down production. So that is, I believe, one of the side effects that could happen, and that can affect the economy in many different ways, especially depending on the job you're in. Say you're in finance and you just can't get this report done within the time frame because maybe someone took some time off and there's no one else, online that you could reach out to real quick. So you have to make a quick decision. Things like that you don't want to happen. Now, while that might be small and minuscule to some, on a grand scheme of things for the economy, that can become a problem. We are humans, and that face-to-face interaction, talking with people in person, is what we do. That's how we really, really grow and, elevate our minds. So I do know that while meetings are online are cool, I know that in-person meeting, really catching facial expressions. Sometimes everyone doesn't have their camera on. And, you can't really catch how people feel through an email all the time. Sometimes being in person can mitigate a lot of problems. So I do believe that, working from home, we're going to just see a few trade-offs going on, right? And also, again, I briefly touched on it earlier. Working from home is going to create a decrease in demand for commercial office spaces. So while I'm an entrepreneur, I have a shared office space. So I work with a few different businesses and we share it's like a virtual hub. And you have a password key and you can go downtown to the office, sign in, get some work done, network with a few people. That you have to stay within the guidelines of wearing your mask and, socially distancing, staying 6 feet apart from each other, things like that. But that is, I believe, going to become the new norm. I don't see that we're going to have too many big corporate offices anymore. I do believe it's going to become more so hub environment, and that is just, to me, that's going to impact the economy, because those company, those building leases, what are they going to do with those buildings? Are they going to turn them? I know I read one report, maybe a millionaire was thinking about maybe buying a few of those locations and turning them into farms. Because a few farmers, if you've been following the business Twitter page on Twitter, it's the GSMC business Twitter. There's a few farmers are seeing some losses right now during the pandemic. So that millionaire was thinking, hey, maybe I can buy up a few of these office buildings that aren't being used, and we can shift, what we're using that space for, and create maybe a farm area, and do what they do on their day to day, and maybe share that space. So like a shared farm space. I thought that was pretty innovative. So we're definitely going to see a lot of shifts in the economy with working from home. And there's going to be an increase in home home spaces. So living spaces are that, again, like I spoke on earlier, it was really hard for me to find a good place. It's never been too hard to find a nice place to live for myself. I know that's not the case for everyone. But there's never been what I would say a shortage in properties to either buy or rent. Someone's always selling something, right? And someone's always renting something out. But during the pandemic, because a lot of people are working from home, they had to find a place, and if they could afford it, they had to find a place that had maybe a home office space. A lot of kids are still at home learning, and they need their own private space too. My niece, she has a whole little office set up in the corner of her room, and she gets her work done, and she has to go on meetings with her classmates, and the virtual learning environment is very different. I love it. I felt like I knew it was coming soon. I didn't think it would come this soon, but we're definitely going to see an increase in that, needing a place to live that has a good office, that has great internet connection. So a lot of home internet providers, I'm sure, are seeing a boost. I haven't done my complete research on it. I've briefly read a few articles about the home internet providers. I know, for example, T-Mobile was doing a great thing for certain cities across America. They were giving free Wi-Fi to certain school districts, and a few people are creating different hubs similar to my office space where the children can come. So if you are an essential worker or your office is back open, you have to go to work, but the children aren't allowed to go to school just yet, you're able to take them to these hubs, and they can get their schoolwork done. So we're definitely going to see a lot of changes. And then the last takeaway that I just wanted to briefly touch on what's, how remote living is impacting the economy, is the distribution of income. So I'm sure you've noticed. If you haven't, I would charge you to just take a look around you and think of your quote unquote unskilled workers. I don't really like that term. I think a lot of the quote unquote unskilled workers is actually very skilled work. I briefly had a stint in landscaping. I've done a few different jobs, but landscaping was by far the most stressful that I've ever had. It was very physical, very, very physical labor. Although I was in the best shape of my life, it was a lot of work. I worked in a mail carrier factory before, and although they consider that unskilled labor, I would say it's very, very skilled. You have to have the right body for those kind of jobs. So shout out to all the, what we deem unskilled workers. You guys are killing it right now. But what I can say is they can't do their job from home. Now, unless these companies can afford to go strictly to robots, and the robots strictly, do the mailing, and the robots strictly handle everything, from painting the streets to laying the pavement to building buildings, until we are a strictly automated society, we need those physical labored hands, right? They're not able to work from home. A lot of corporate individuals like myself, I'm very grateful for what I have, but I do see the benefit of being in corporate. I'm able to work from the comforts of my home. I wash up in the morning and I roll over to my computer in my office. I walk downstairs for my lunch, walk back upstairs, and it's I could take my dog on a walk on my lunch break. A lot of those labor intensive jobs, those workers are unable to do it. So I'm wondering, and I'll be interested to see how this pans out on how the wealth will get distributed from different organizations. Will they begin to pay you more to work remotely, or will they begin to pay you less to work remotely? It really is going to depend on that employer, right? So there's going to be a few different things that we're going to be seeing over, I would say, the next few years. I do believe that COVID-19 is going to have a long-lasting effect on how we handle business in our society. And I do think the economy is definitely seeing a pivot, right? All right, so we're getting ready to take a quick break. Again, we're just talking about remote living, how I'm loving it. I hope you're loving it. And then when we come back from the break, we're just going to touch briefly on a few corporations. I like to do hometown heroes with some small business owners. For this segment today, I wanted to touch on a few businesses, few corporations who are just killing it right now with the remote living and trying to accommodate all their employees. All right, so stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Back again, this is your girl Moriah, and today we're talking about remote living, and right now we're going to talk about what I like to call our hometown heroes. Now, while these are some big corporations, this might be in your hometown, right? So there are, a few businesses who just have to embrace working from home, and, with all the state mandates and the CDC suggestions and guidelines, a lot of businesses have just wanted to embrace working from home. I know a lot of corporations already had it in their mind that they would begin to do remote or telecommuting. It's just a little bit easier, more cost efficient. Again, we touched on how by 2025, experts expect 36 million individuals on the workforce to work from home. We're seeing less meetings, which I love. I love the meeting. So it's like a love-hate relationship with the work meetings, right? Again, you want to look presentable on the meeting, but you also want to stay comfortable in your jammies and your cozy socks, right? So less meetings has been pretty good, but you still miss that interaction with people, the knowledge sharing and the collaboration that is just very, very organic when you're in person. It feels less automated than, being at home. So there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to working from home. It's just easier. I've been harping on it because I'm big on commutes. I hate long, strenuous commutes. I don't mind a long commute, but if I feel stressed out during my commute, I just spent a long time getting to work. Then I had a long work day. And I have an even longer commute home because I'm in the middle of rush hour. No matter how early I leave my job, I can get a little stressed out. So working from home has been good for me. And, we're saving money. saving on clothes and takeout. And, while our electricity and our internet might be increasing and, how much we pay for that, we are seeing a decrease in other expenses. And there's, some good and some bad impacts on the economy. One, I want to say business debate is how this is going to play out as far as pay and salary for some individuals. Is it going to be less funding for, employees who work from home? Are we going to see a decrease in how much, the job is worth? So like your salary, if you're an executive, but you're working from home all the time, are employees going to begin to cut that salary down? Or are we going to see an increase? If you can work from home and you can handle a lot more tasks on your computer, are you going to see an increase? What about those in the field who are doing all of the manual labor jobs? Are they going to see an increase? Because a lot more people I'm sure, are going to flock to work from home. It's just an easier, calmer environment. So will those manual labor jobs come back in full force like they were in times of old? So interesting things that we're going to see. So right now we're just going to break into a few of my favorite part of this show. Just a few different companies who I think are setting trends and who began to set trends when the pandemic started and, are just seeing some great results from working from home. So we're going to go straight to San Fran in California. There are 3 companies that are stationed there: Twitter, Square, and Slack. And they all are discussing working from home and how they may go permanently working from home. So Twitter, as you know, the business podcast is on Twitter. And Twitter announced, I want to say last summer, that they were allowing its workforce to continue to work from home forever if they choose to. So again, like we spoke on today, hopefully your employer is allowing you that option. If you are a remote worker, I hope they're allowing you the option to work from home permanently. And if you want to opt out of working from home, or you want to have options, sometimes you might want to just get out the house and see your coworkers and be back in the office for those office vibes. Some people are more productive in the office. Some people cannot afford to work from home. So there's a few things that go into that. So I like the fact that Twitter is giving their employees options and allowing them that autonomy to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I love my employer. I love working for you. I just need X, Y, and Z. And they're really open to that and giving them those options. And there was a statement from Twitter's vice president of people, Jennifer Christie, and she stated, if not, our offices will be their warm and welcoming cells with some additional precautions when we feel it's safe to return. So, if the employees do have to go back to the office, they want to make it a very welcome place. And if they want to stay home, they can do so, and they'll allow them to do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another company that's also on the same wave is Square. So you might know Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. He is the owner of Square as well, and he wants to allow them to work from home once the pandemic ends. And, he said that moving forward, they'll be able to work, employees will be able to work from home permanently, even when the office opens. So again, that's another way of giving those employees some options. They're learning that people are very effectively working from home. Again, a lot of employees now, I'm stuck to monitors, so I'm not going too far from home, but some jobs, they allow you to use your laptop. And I know one young lady, she travels all the time. So she makes sure, she has her COVID test. If you listen to the previous episode, we're talking about safe travels for business owners. She makes sure she has her COVID testing, and she makes sure everything is good. And she takes her laptop and her work briefcase with her. And in the morning, she handles her business. And then at night, you know, she might hit the beach and just chill. So I love that. I'm very happy for everyone who's able to really travel and work from home. So if you work for one of these companies, that might be you. You might be able to, you know, get more done in a different environment. You know, you might work better in the heat, or you might work better in the cold, and you can travel to where you want to and work. So I like the fact that they're giving their employees options, right? And then another company, Slack, they're on the same wave. You know, they had a panel discussion, and the CEO said that they were going to allow employees to work from home indefinitely as well. And they were saying that they don't know if it's impossible, but they just don't see that going back to traditional office work is going to be the same. And I would have to agree. I don't think that we're going to go back to normal. I think normal is no longer. And business, we're seeing new normal, which is just innovation, right? So you can just call it what it is. It's just a very innovative time. And I love the fact that a lot of employers are catching wind of this. They're changing with the times. They're not pushing off too much. Just a quick sidebar. I'm not sure if you all remember, but back when Blockbuster was presented with the Netflix option, they did not want to innovate. They felt like there's no way people want to get, you know, movies mailed to them. That doesn't make sense. I don't think they had the foresight to see how great Netflix would be. And Netflix is what it is, and Blockbuster is no longer what it was. So I think employers right now are looking at these precedented, you know, times, and they're saying, okay, we can either go with the flow, we can follow other employers, or we can do what we do, which is innovate. That's how we got to where we are. That's how we are the leaders in our industries. So I do believe we're going to see a lot of businesses take on this idea. You know, if you even have a small percentage of employees that are remote and they've adjusted to that environment, bringing them back into the office, I do believe we're going to see a decrease in production. So I think businesses just want to be mindful of that. They just want to be careful of, you know, what they're making their employees do. You know, you want to keep the hype up. You know, there's nothing worse than an employee who can't stand their job because the job is not moving forward. They're not trying to innovate, and they're not trying to, you know, accommodate the new workforce. So I do think that a lot of companies are going to begin to follow after these guys. Another business that is taking on that same idea is Facebook in California as well. And as many as, I want to say, 50% of their employees are could be working remotely within the next 5 to 10 years. So he's trying to get half of his workforce to work from home. And I think companies just want to accommodate. So, you know, you don't want to get stuck in that space of not wanting to change. And I do believe these hometown heroes that I'm speaking on today, they are the big names, and they really set the trends for a lot of the smaller companies and a lot of the smaller brands, and show them the way, you know. So if these guys are saying, hey, we want our employees to be able to work from home, we want them to be able to be comfortable while they're working for us, because we know and understand that a comfortable, relaxed employee is a more productive employee. Then I say that we should pay attention to that and just really understand that when you limit, you know, who you hire because you're in that city, it can really cut down on the creative energy and all the creative juices that can flow. You know, for example, GSMC. I love this network, this podcasting network. I'm in Philly. This is, you know, the Golden State Media Concepts, and I'm able to give my Philly experience and give my Philly, you know, my Philly vibes and everything to this podcast, and just give a change of scenery for you all. You know, just give a difference in what you're used to maybe hearing in your neighborhood, in your city. I think that's what these companies are doing. They just want to make sure they're really going throughout the world and really able to pick the best workers, the best team to bring a lot of these thoughts and ideas to fruition. So I think these guys are doing an awesome job making sure that their employees are able to be accommodated with what we have going on. Another brand that's also doing the same thing is Shopify. They announced that they're not going to turn around. They believe that a central office is of the past, and that now they are, as the CEO stated, as of today, Shopify is a digital by default company. So that means he's not even looking to the past. He's looking. They're looking forward. Their eyes are going straight ahead. They're saying, listen, everything before the pandemic, get rid of it. Whatever mindset you had about a business before the pandemic, it's just really done, and you really have to embrace the new. It's just a new era, and there's been a lot of positive impacts of working from home. I think remote living is definitely an innovative way to handle business. Again, I can be in Philly where I'm at, and I can reach out to someone in Canada, like at Shopify, and we can, they can say, hey, you're in that city, do some research in that city, and we'll see how to better assist the business owners who use our platform, in your location, and we'll be able to better assist them with different resources within that city. Now, it's, obviously we're in the age of knowledge, so you can just go to Google and type whatever you need in and get some stats done. But really having, boots on the ground in a certain city to really see what's going on and how you can handle things, I just think it's much, much better. I think a lot of jobs are going to start implementing this. I do believe a lot of jobs are, and employers are understanding things are different now, and it's not going to go back to the way it was. I don't think that any employer who wants to stay around will continue to make their places of employment strictly office centric. I think a lot of employers are now understanding that times are changing, and having a solid system in place to handle the work from home environment is going to be key. And if they don't, it could be detrimental to their brand. And a lot of the new workforce is looking for comfortability. I am one of those. I love to be comfortable while I'm at work. I think I'm most productive when I have a nice cup of tea or coffee. I have some music playing. Sometimes I don't want my headphones in. Sometimes I want that old, speaker feel. So while I'm working from home, I can toss my speaker on. I can go downstairs and make my cup of coffee real quick and come back. I don't have to walk all the way down the hall and around the corner to the kitchen. It's just, I can walk my dog on my lunch. After work is done, I can just turn my computer off and go chill on the couch for a little bit and unwind for my day. And I don't have to deal with the stresses of traffic. So, it's a lot of benefits to working from home. So I hope you're able to work from home if you're listening. If not, I do hope your employer begins to figure out a way to implement remote work. I do know that not every job can be done remotely. So I understand where there's always going to be a need for some people out in the field. And to those guys, we really appreciate you all right? So again, it's your girl Moriah. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Business Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like for you all, if you can, to subscribe, leave some comments, nice reviews, let us know how we're doing. Also, you can follow the GSMC Business Podcast on Twitter. Make sure you follow, GSMC on Facebook and Instagram as well, all right? Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
You've been listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.